In this week's episode of Ushio and Tora, the origins of Tora and the Hakumen no Mono are fully revealed, and big shock, they're actually connected. The planets have certainly aligned on this week's episode of Ushio and Tora, as we finally get to learn about the true origins of Tora, what he was like when he was a human, and how he's effectively responsible for the very birth of the Hakumen no Mono. This week's episode was a big flashback sequence, which was all about Tora when he was a human, which was very eye-opening. Apparently he was this one badass warrior from this Indian country. His original human name, and I'm going to try my best to pronounce this for you guys, is Shagakusha. As a child, Shagakusha was looked down upon by all of his peers, and that's because he was effectively just seen as a thief, as a bringer of doom, a street rat, if you will. However, when he became an adult, he became a very powerful warrior and gained the respect of all of those in his kingdom. However, Shagakusha did not like any of this. He did not trust any of these humans, seeing how one moment they hated him, and then just after killing a lot of people, they ended up loving them. There was absolutely no way that he could trust anyone, and I really like this aspect of his backstory because it really gives you another reason as to why Tora trusts absolutely no one. It almost seems as if Tora actually still has his memories of being Shagakusha, and I think that's really interesting. And even after all of the resentment he has towards mankind and all of the evil things that they've done, he still formed a very powerful relationship with this young boy by the name of Rama and his older sisters, who he seemed to have fallen in love with at some point, and these were the only two people that he actually genuinely cared about. There was an incident towards the end where he decided to leave the village with both Rama and his sister because there was this big invasion that was getting ready to go down from this other country, and as they make their way out to the outskirts, they're met by this giant army who kills them all in a flurry of arrows. And this is where we get what is definitely the most metal birth of just about any demon that I've ever seen. I'm talking about the Hakumen no Mono. One of the coolest things about Shagakusha is that when he was actually born right under a meteor shower. And this meteor was actually the evil that is the Hakumen no Mono, except that it couldn't take human form. Essentially, originally, the Hakumen no Mono was like this collective darkness and fear which influenced mankind to kill each other. But the Hakumen no Mono craved real blood, and the only way that it could do that is that it found a suitable human host that it could gestate inside of until eventually it will be birthed. And creepily enough, this thing has actually been living inside of Shagakusha's body the entire time, and at the end, finally it erupts, exploding out of his shoulder, and that's when you see the Hakumen no Mono for the very first time. Of course, after all of these events, Shagakusha is absolutely pissed off, because not only has his love been killed, but even his only friend Rama has been killed as well, and the entire village in which they lived in was completely destroyed and burned to the ground because of Hakumen no Mono. However, this is all, again, a part of Hakumen no Mono's plan. You see, because fear and anger actually power him up, and because of him actually living inside of Shagakusha's body, this actually made him turn immortal. He was going to live forever, and even gain some even crazier powers. Like, towards the end of the episode, he has the ability to, like, completely destroy his arm and stretch it out. I don't know how that shit works, but it's freaking crazy. And Shagakusha just sort of wanders the lands for 800 years looking for Hakumen no Mono so that he can get his revenge, until suddenly he comes upon the Beast Spear, and that's eventually when he becomes Tora. Safe to say, all of this stuff is very eye-opening, and I really love all of the backstory of Tora. It's very interesting, and I'm glad that they got to it and got through it so quick. But honestly, I would have liked to spend a little bit more time with his human form, but they did a great job of letting you know what his whole backstory is all about, and they didn't really want to give you a very clear image of what he looked like when he was a human. A lot of the times, they would stay away from what his actual face looked like, but it was still definitely Tora at the end of the day. The voice was still the same, and it really does make sense why he has such a hardcore grudge with the Hakumen no Mono. They are really connected. They're basically brothers, to say the least. And then at the very end of the episode, we go back to Ushio, who is just continuing to drown in the ocean, trying to figure out what's going on. He's actually been witnessing all of this crazy shit that's been going on. It also happens to be tied to the fact that you have those other characters who traveled back in time to actually witness the birth of the Hakumen no Mono. So now everybody sort of knows, like, why Tora is so connected to this massive primordial demon. And at the very end, it seems like these shards of the Beast Spear are going to come back together, and it looks like they're going to form the spear again so that Ushio can battle against the Hakumen no Mono. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Ushio and Tora? This was a very good episode detailing the backstories of both Tora and the Hakumen no Mono. I had a feeling that they were going to be connected. I just didn't realize it would be something like this. Him actually giving birth to the Hakumen no Mono, which that scene where his entire shoulder blade just gets like exploded and ripped out, like that looks so painful and so evil. And that's what's so great about the Hakumen no Mono. It's a great villain type character. You just love to hate this thing, which is still incredibly destructive. At the beginning of the episode, it's actually picking up those giant like living mech demons and like tossing them towards the Kohamai sect, which just completely obliterates all of them. They have absolutely no choice, or they themselves are going to be killed, and maybe even more innocent bystanders. You gotta remember, the Hakumen no Mono can destroy entire islands with a single blast. It's insane. However, this is not a perfect episode. I do have one major complaint with it, and it seems like they took a lot of shortcuts with this episode. In particular, all of the scenes in the flashback, which were not fully animated a lot of the time. There was a lot of just still imagery. There was barely any lips moving. There was not as much movement as I was hoping there would be, and it had this, like, strange wash or filter over it that just made it look a little muddy and dirty, and frankly, I would have liked to see it a little cleaner and maybe just some better animation attached to it, because this is some pretty crucial information about Tora and the Hakumen no Mono, so I was sort of hoping they would do that, but clearly, I think this is an episode that they're using so that they can save the budget for some more of the bigger, explosive episodes in the finale, because we are getting there, guys. We are this much closer to the end of Ushio and Tora, and now that we know that Tora has such a strong connection with the Hakumen no Mono, it's going to make all of the action and emotional moments which are coming up that much more impactful, and that's what's got me really excited for the finale of the series. Now, despite the fact that I didn't really care for the fact that they did barely any animation in the flashback sequences, I still really enjoyed it. I liked the story, I liked the imagery, I liked all of the great things that they had to say, and it was just really good to finally learn a little bit more about Tora and his backstory. It really does change my perspective on his character and why he's so distrustful of everyone. So despite the fact that this episode took some shortcuts, I am going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. It was very eye-opening, and it's really changed my perspective on a lot of the main characters and the entire backstory of the entire series, and it did a really great job at doing that, and like I said, it's a great build-up to the finale, so 4 out of 5. Check it out, Ushio and Tora fans. You might see something you like. But if any of you did watch this week's episode of Ushio and Tora, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you have a favorite scene from this episode? What did you think about Tora's backstory and the very birth of the Hakumen no Mono? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. If you would like to help support Super Kami Guru 9000, you can do it in a number of awesome ways. Maybe comment on this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. You guys should also check us out on social media, and you should look at our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. It's pretty freaking life-changing and awesome. You'll see links for all of that stuff in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!